What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. And this time we're taking a look at Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, directed by Jake Kasdan. Okay, I'm going to make this review as short and sweet as I possibly can. I overall really like Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Now, this movie is not like the original Jumanji, which to me is a more dialed down type of movie. This one is a more bombastic action comedy type movie. It's a different kind of movie. It's a more modern day type of movie as opposed as when you compare it to the original movie, which which was more subdued in a way. But does that make this a bad movie? Absolutely not. In this movie's own right, it's an extremely fun movie. I do have issues with it here and there, but I overall found this movie to be highly entertaining. So my big positives of this movie is mostly it's the cast. I like for the most part I enjoy the cast of characters in this movie. The actors who play the kids who get transferred into Jumanji and become their avatars, I all thought they did a pretty good job. And I like how Karen Gillian, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and The Rock pretty much adopted the characteristics of their real world counterparts into the actual game version of the movie itself. I thought they did a great job. It was fun seeing The Rock play the version of Spencer, who was like this nerdy kid who was afraid of everything. I like how the character of Moose, who was like this big jock guy, is the diminutive Kevin Hart, which is hilarious. The quiet, shy girl becomes Ruby Roundhouse, who was a badass, and you got the popular girl becomes Jack Black. And seeing them become like different contrasts of their characters is actually pretty interesting. It's actually, it's pretty cool in a way. And I thought they all did a great job. I like the camaraderie between the four characters as well, and I like the growth that they have within the game itself. As they grow in the game, they grow as friends, and it's good. It's really good. And I also enjoy Dick Jonas, who plays McDonald Seaplane, aka he was the kid who found the board game in 1996 and got sucked into the board game when it became an actual video game console. So yeah, that was pretty cool too. So that was fine for what it was. All good. This movie does have some references to the original movie. We get an Alan Parrish name drop. We actually see the elephant token that Alan Parrish used in the original Jumanji game. That's in this movie as well. So they do make little nods and references to Alan Parrish. You know, as a nice little tribute to Robert Williams himself, since he had passed away before this movie was made. So it was fun. It was that's as a fan of the original Jumanji and as a fan of Robin Williams, I like how the movie paid tribute to Robert Williams and to his character of Alan Parrish. That was great. That was as a fan, that was great stuff. Uh, I overall like the look of this movie. I thought that the actual game version of Jumanji looks pretty cool, and not only that, I like the concept that we actually get to see Jumanji itself. Like in the first movie, we saw Jumanji come to the real world, but in this movie, we see the real world go to Jumanji itself. And and it's a different take, it's a different vibe, and it's pretty cool in a way, seeing Jumanji and how Jumanji works as its own character and as a game. And I give credit to a lot of the actors who played the NPCs, the non-playable characters. I like how they acted like video game characters. Like the actor who played Nigel Bingsley, he did a fine job. And a couple of other actors did a good fine job too at playing the NPC and acting like video game characters only as real life. I thought that was a nice attention to detail. Um, Overall, I like the look and landscape of the jungle itself. It looks massive. It looks exotic yet dangerous. I also like the look of this bazaar that the characters go through. It's a nice little aesthetic. Um, so yeah, from a production standpoint, that's all done fine. From a story standpoint, the movie's not crazy. It's not complicated. It's very bare bones. It's very simple, easy to follow. Now, to my big criticism about this movie is lack of a villain. In the first movie, we had Van Pelt, who was a really good villain, and he had a story. Van Pelt's story was that he wanted to kill Alan Parrish because Van Pelt is a big game hunter and he wants to hunt down a human in Alan Parrish as a big game. That's the villain, and he was fine. In this movie, we have Bobby Cannavale, who plays the modern day version of Van Pelt, who was friends with the Bravestone character until he got possessed by this ruby, which made him a villain. And my biggest gripe is that with all due respect to Bobby Cannavale as an actor, I thought with what he was given, he did okay. But this movie does not have a villain presence, and we don't. And this movie feels like doesn't really have any stakes to it. Like I don't feel any stakes. This movie is more like an action comedy, and I don't feel the drama or the tension of a villainous threat. That's just me. I think the Van Pelt character is extremely underwritten as a threat and as a force. Like I don't really feel that these guys are in peril when they're in Jumanji. You know, they're trying to take the MacGuffin crystal to the Jaguars so they can win, but there's no. But I never feel like there's a lingering threat out to get them, and that's to me the biggest weak point of this movie. And to me, that's also the biggest weak point for just a video game in general when the villain does not pose much of a threat and is completely forgettable and throwaway. And in this movie, the Van Pelt character is forgettable and throwaway, and he has no threat. There's no threat. There's no tension, and that's the biggest concern, the gripe I have against this movie, is that as fun as it is, and as well made as it is, and as funny as it is, when it gets down to the meat and potatoes and when it gets to the actiony stuff, to me they don't have any weight. Even though some of the action scenes are really well directed, they are pretty fun. Like Ruby Roundhouse kicking ass with two bodyguards is fun. The whole helicopter scene is a really fun scene as well. But there's, again, the villainous threat, there's no stakes. And the ending is really anticlimactic. There's no big fight scene at the end. They just pretty much trick Van Pelt and they put the Ruby in the Jaguar and that's it. There's no like big boss battle. It's very underwhelming as an ending. But I do like how when they go to the real world, we see Alex, now grown up, played by Colin Hanks. We see him befriend the four teenagers that saved his life. And we also see the four teenagers who, at the beginning of this movie, did not care for one another. We see them now as a close knit unit and as friends. So, I think that was a nice way to wrap up this movie in a nutshell. Okay, so overall, though, yeah, those are just my thoughts on Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Overall, I'm gonna give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. It's not as good as the original movie. It does have a lot of problems to it, but it's fun. It's a fun little movie, and I enjoyed it as well. However, the lack of a villain, did not care for it. And also, another thing I didn't care for is why does Jumanji have dick jokes? It just does not fit with the whole tone of Jumanji. That's just me. The dick jokes to me are the lowest forms of comedy in a movie like this, especially when you watch that first movie, which had really well integrated comedy. This movie to me has like forced modern day comedy, and I just for a Jumanji, it doesn't work for me at all. But yeah, but that doesn't spoil my overall enjoyment of this movie. It's a 7 out of 10. You can watch it and not be bored. You'll be entertained. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Jumanji. Welcome to the jungle. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.